it's Hope and welcome to the video. This is going to be, as you can tell by the title, books I read in 24 hours. So, very simple, books that I read, and I read them within 24 hours. There might be some that I read like, 24 hours and some odd minutes, but within a 24-hour period. Like, I started it, say, let's go 10 p.m. on a day, I finished it by like 8 p.m. the next day type thing. These are just based on like my Goodreads and remembering, so some of these again could be off. If I seem like I'm low on energy, it's because I am. I've been tired constantly the last few weeks, so yeah. So the first book that I read in 24 hours, and this is actually one that I'm also going to kind of explain maybe the stories around how I read these in that short time period. But Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is a 400-page book. And I forgot that I read this in 24 hours until I remembered. So if you don't know what Throne of Glass is about, do you live under a shoe? Throne of Glass, we follow an assassin named Selena Sardathian who, after getting imprisoned, gets released from prison under the agreement that she will become the prince's pick for this assassin thing that the king is doing. Essentially, he's trying to find the king's assassin, and the Prince Dorian, wants Selena to be his person competing. So Selena gets taken out of prison, taken to the castle, and when her competition starts dying mysteriously, she must try to figure it out as well as compete in the competition. And this is the first book in it's technically 8-book series, but one's a prequel. But this was my first read of 2020, and the first book in the start of an absolute obsession with Sarah J. Maas. This, I remember, for my first read for 2020, was really hard to pick because I wanted to start off with a book that I had a feeling I was going to like. And I picked Throne of Glass. The only reason I read this in a 24-hour time period is because on the 2nd of January, we had to travel an hour and a half away to visit my grandma in the hospital. And so I read the whole hour and a half there, the whole hour and a half back. So that was 200 pages. And then I completed it within I started it the night before. I finished it, I think, when we were traveling. So that was the first book that I think I ever finished in 24 hours. And I didn't even realize that I finished it in 24 hours until more recently. The next book that I finished in 24 hours was After by Todd. I hate that I love this series, but After we follow Tessa Young, who is going to university, and she ends up getting with the wrong crowd, and she's this goody two-shoes, so she ends up getting in with the wrong people. Her roommate's kind of a bad girl, and she meets this bad boy named Hardin, and it's just their story, I guess. And the only reason I read this in 24 hours was I was doing a reread of it, so I obviously knew what was going to happen and I was able to read it quicker. Also, this was during a time that back in August, we didn't have internet, cable, or a house phone for a week because something fucked up and it took a week for them to come fix it. So all I could do was read. So I was just reading a bunch of books, and this one I finished. I started it at 4 in the morning, and I had it finished by I think 6 p.m. the next day. I was just binge reading it. Next, I have 2 books in the same series, so I'm going to talk about them at once, and that is The Summoning by Storm Song and The Darkening by Storm Song, which is the first and the second book in the Vampire Trials series. So, The Summoning, we follow, the fuck is your name? We follow Scarlet, who, we're in this, New York that is overrun by vampires, and every 5 years, I believe it is, there is this thing called the vampire trials where 3 people, one from each like sector of the city, because the city's split into like 3 sectors, has to compete to kind of see which sector is like the best and which one doesn't have to be a part of this thing that happens when the competitions are over, where the vampires can just go essentially go like ape shit on all of the like male population. And this is the first year that females are included for this, and our main character Scarlett gets chosen, and it is eventually kind of spoilerly revealed that the only reason that females were allowed is because of her, for reasons, and this is a like paranormal reverse harem series, and I read both of these in like, not both of them within the same 24-hour period, but both of them were within 24 hours. Like, I read The Summoning in 24 hours, and then in a different 24 hours I read The Darkening. And they're just really short books, so that's why they're like 215, 220 pages long, so they were really quick reads, and they were actually kind of good. Next we have A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, and A Darker Shade of Magic is the first book in the Shades of Magic trilogy, where we follow where one of the main characters we follow is Kel, who is an Antari, and an Antari is a person that has these like magical abilities to essentially travel between these 4 different Londons. Red London, Grey London, White London, and Black London, and when Kel ends up bringing back something from one of the Londons that he shouldn't, that sends off the plot, and I don't really know how else to describe this, but this I read for Becca's Bookopoly-thon 48-hour readathon, so obviously I read this in 24 hours. I started at like 5 p.m. when the like readathon started my time, and I finished it by like midnight maybe, so it was like 7 hours. It's a 400-page book, I believe, and I always forget that I read this in 24 hours, but I absolutely loved this book. I gave it like 4 stars, and yeah, I just really enjoyed that. Next we have The Hunt by Frost K, and this is a like YA fantasy paranormal series where we follow Tempest, who is the first ever female hound, and hounds are essentially kind of like the king's assassins type thing, and so when she becomes a hound, she is sent on a like mission by the king as like her first like solo mission to bring the Jester's heart to the king. The Jester is this shapeshifter who has been seemingly poisoning the like country's like water supply, causing illness, and we go from there. And I read it in 24 hours on my second read through, again with that week in August where we didn't have like any like Wi-Fi, so we were only going off of like data, which we don't have much of, and yeah. Next we have Stay Gold by Tobly McSmith, which I have an entire review on my channel of. I posted that back in January, so I read this back in January. And Stay Gold, we follow a boy named Pony who is like entering a new high school after moving, and his only goal is to stay under the radar because he is trans and he doesn't want anyone to make like a big deal out of it and all of that. And then we also follow a girl named Georgia who is a cheerleader, and she has banned dating for this year due to a horrible breakup during the summer. But when Pony and Georgia meet, that kind of sends everything for a loop for both of their plans and all of that. And this I read in 24 hours because it was just such a fun and sweet like story that I enjoyed. The final 2 I'm going to be talking about like together because I read these 2 books in 48 hours, 24 hours for one, 24 hours for the other. And those are From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout and A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. These made my, like, A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire made my, like, top 3 for my top 10 books of 2021, so, like, obviously I like these. But from Blood and Ash, we follow a maiden named Poppy who essentially cannot be looked upon, cannot be gazed upon, cannot be touched, anything like that. But when Poppy needs a new guard, a guard named Hawk takes, like, that place as a guard, and we follow Poppy and Hawk kind of growing closer and all of that, and it is much bigger than that, but, like, that's all I knew going into it, and that's all you really need to know. We're in this world that as we move forward, we get more knowledge about the characters and the world itself. But I absolutely love these. I wasn't originally wanting to read them in 24 hours, but I literally started from Blood and Ash at, like, I think midnight exactly on December 1st. I had it finished by, like, 11 o'clock the next evening, and then I started A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, I believe literally immediately after I finished it, and then had that finished by, like, 11 o'clock the next day. So it was, like, less than 48 hours, or, like, around 48 hours that I had both of these books finished. And they're big books. They're, like, 630 some pages each. Like, they are huge. And I still can't believe that I read them in 24 hours. Like, they are some of my favorite books. I'm so excited for The Crown of Gilded Bones that comes out in, I think it's like 6 weeks at the time I'm filming this. Like, a little over 6 weeks, I believe, when I'm filming this. So, I'm so excited for those. But, yeah, so those were all of the books that I think I've read in 24 hours. There could be more that I'm just, like, completely forgetting about. Like, there could be some that I'm just completely, like, blanking on, but those were all the books that I can think of that I've read in 24 hours. I will be doing another video of books I read in one sitting, because technically I read them in under 24 hours if I've read them in one sitting, but there are enough to make an entirely separate video for that, so that will be coming out. I don't know when, I haven't even filmed it yet. I'm going to film it immediately after this, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know what books you read in 24 hours, or, like, if you can't read books in 24 hours, what is the, like, shortest amount of time it took you to finish a book. And again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye!